It was just a series of unfortunate events. Yo, good book series, good. Later books start getting wacky, but it was pretty good. An accident. I'm no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. Oh, just you wait, little Susan. Don't just you wait, your little ancestor by your fate. Yo, by your fate, yo. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? To be perfectly honest, yeah. There's a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure of it. I just can't quite put my finger on it. Calm down. I confess. I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues in this matter. Oh. I am only present here for a very specific reason. The truth is, you, Miss Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. A distraction? I do hope you're finding your shackles too uncomfortable. Ah, not again. When did he do that? Especially as they are on your wrist as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were, Mr. Sholmes? Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours. Was he not? Yes. Kazuma was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom. I owed him my freedom even. In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, whatever that may be. The key to this is the discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure. If I can chase that down, maybe the truth will become clear. The truth about how you really died. Now the scene in your cabin really came to be. Alright, I'll see what I can do. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo. So then, shall we begin? Yes. What we should ponder first is the victim who lost his life in a cabin that was bolted shut from the inside. Was this truly an unfortunate accident? Or was it in fact no accident at all? That it was we must establish in the first instance. But we already established it, haven't we? The man tripped over the can, then climbed into his cabin via the ventilator. Tragic, yes, but still an accident.
Hold it!
Wait, let's just take a step back. It doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it? I'm gonna have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid. Yes, it's starting to take shape now. There's a clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story here. The evidence is right in Kazuma's cabin. It's an undeniable. His death cannot possibly have been a mere accident. Really? Let us show our hand, Mr. Naruhodo. Time to present the evidence. The evidence that proves unequivocally that the victim's death was no mere accident. This one. Fuck. Oh, actually, I have absolutely no idea. Oh, God. I think it would be this, though. Oh, God, I'm so dumb. Oh, no. Alright guys, I'm back from thinking, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm freaking retarded. It's right here. Obviously, it's the thing that he can't speak. Like, I was sitting here like, wait, how is this not an accident? I mean, I guess it could still be an accident, but they just made it look like a murder. I guess that's why my thought was confused. But definitely this. The truth is clearly recorded in the photographic print. There's no way that Mr. Sogi could have left this message on the floor. He also, oh, that script, it's Russian, isn't it? Indeed it is. The word written means wardrobe. See what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language, Japanese in this case. But maybe he was studying Russian. It's a simple language. He could have picked up. Is it? He was very fast. That doesn't seem likely. That actually is not the point. Makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not. Sorry? What do you mean? Exactly what I said before. There's no way that Mr. Sogi could have left this message on the floor. And the reason why was clearly explained in here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae resulting in instant death. Instant death. Gah! Which means, after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything, because he was already dead. That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Sogi's cabin. A remnant of something couldn't possibly have been there if what Miss Pavlova told us was true. What? So, Suzuki-san has noticed it too then. Putting this mesh on the floor aside, there's something that gives the truth away. Another piece of evidence that proves this was no accident. In other words.
Yes!
Because the second half of it is inside of Pavlova's cabin. This broken piece of glass next to the mark on the floor. But that's the glass bell that the kid had around his neck. We already know about that. It was broken in half when the victim tripped over the cat and fell. We already had a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic? Unfortunately, there's a very big flaw. Fatal flaw. What? That's really what happened. Then why did one half of the bell end up back here in this cabin? Yes, remember that we found the other half of the glass bell in the waste paper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova? Oh no. Both these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. That when Mr. Sogi died last night in his cabin, there was someone else in the room. And that same person deliberately arranged the scene to disguise the truth in order to cover up his or her own guilt. Kia! Yes, that's where someone else presents in Mr. Sogi's. You are wasting time. Someone else was there? Duh, of course, we know this. What are you talking about? Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There was no way in or out. Oh, yes. And only one person in cabin where a young student died was you.
Yes!
Yes, that is correct. It's true. I was in the cabin when it happened. You were shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise about the details. But I don't know Russian. There's no way I could have left that message. No, it would have. There's no way you could have left that message, to be precise about the details. Would you mind? Forgive me, my dear fellow. As I was saying, the person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I'd been asleep during the entire time. And then, the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor for fear of becoming evidence that it would show how Mr. Sogi really died. But why wanted this person taking all the pieces of the bell away? To be half behind was always going to raise questions. Yes, well, it was past 1 o'clock in the early mornings of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. The single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would barely have cast any light on the floor there. Little wonder then that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item. Elementary, my dear Watson. You all suspect me, don't you?
Hold it!
She's seeming strong enough. Nina is woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills and she went on to join the ballet company. But before, she was dancer on this ship, a member of ship's band. You do not accuse ship's angel of being criminal. Ah, so that's it. You say that when young student died, Nina was there in his cabin. But that's not possible. I give my tooth. Well, this is almost interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How could you be so sure? You are a great detective, you should know. The truth in eyes, cabin bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. Nobody could have gone in the cabin, not Nina, not anyone. Or would you want to tell me the killer can walk through locked doors? Yet, it's impossible. He's right. But wait, we've read about this in detective stories. People often tie thread around door latches so they can open and close them from the outside. Thread? Are you stupid? These bulkheads are not barn doors. Certainly not. They're watertight doors as one would expect to find any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel with not a gap in sight, no thread or needles or magnets could have been used. Oh, no, of course not. I thought so too. Mr. Naruhodo suggested it earlier, so... Suno-san, could you shift this onto me like this? So steam is strong enough at a valid point, the cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from the outside. Not necessarily. What? I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And in this very cabin, we can see the trace of the method I have in mind having been used before. I don't believe it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? A way to shut the bolts of the cabin door from the outside. One does spring to mind, yes. Do you really know what Mr. Sholmes means, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, and so should you. Because we've seen it happen. Indeed, we have. So would you care to do the honors? Honors with you, Mr. Naruhodo. Point out the telling signs of this method that was used to slide the cabin door bolt across from the outside. This one.
Yes!
Look at the bookcase there. See all the books and things on it that have toppled over? That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before. Yes, that's right. It's a very powerful vessel after all. When the engines are thrown in reverse, a violent jolt goes across the entire ship. Any small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over. I believe, yes, it's what known as the force of inertia acting on the objects. Is there nothing Suzuto-san doesn't know? Or that isn't in her book, at least? Well, whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books on the bookcase also made something else in the cabin move. The bolt on the cabin door. It was very obvious just after the emergency stop the ship made earlier. We had come into this cabin not long before, and we hadn't bolted the door. But then... Hello, anyone in there? Shout if you need assistance. Oh, that sounds like Hosonaga. Whoops, that's Hosonaga. Inspector Hosonaga. Oh, yes. That's it. When the ship stopped suddenly, the bolt flew across and locked the door. Yes, it's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to move by the ship's sudden change of speed, or the force of inertia, if you want to call it that. Are you trying to say that last night, after Mr. Soki was killed, Perfect. That has to be such a safety hazard. Because I assume that happens to everybody. Yes, his Burr made another emergency stop. When I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin, I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves had toppled over, and all the ornaments. It was almost as if someone had run their hand across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over. Oh yes, I remember that. And I stood them up again, didn't I? Then when we came into this cabin, we were surprised to see the same thing in here. All the books and everything had toppled over, just like in Mr. Sogi's cabin. Oh my! Do you have anything to say about this, Miss Pavlova? Are you out of your mind? You say Burr made an emergency stop. It does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room. Oh, it is simple enough. Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside? Used to trigger the emergency alarm. Oh yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there? Telling you only press the button in times of emergency. On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of his lookout alone. Hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crew member to raise alarm. The sort of button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity. Wait, it was you! When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interest of safety. The emergency stop alarm bell rings. The vessel comes to a complete stop. As indeed it did a little earlier today. Mr. Sholmes, surely it wasn't you who... As I always say, a button has one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion. Sounds always proud of himself. How dare you mess with sheep? I'll report you to Captain. You are in much trouble now. Now. I'm sure all this can wait until later. Let us not overlook the fact that we've now learned a valuable lesson. When the vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts on the cabin doors slide closed. So, what we now consider... Yes, it all comes down to one thing now. Last night, after what happened to Mr. Sogi, did the ship make an emergency stop, or did it not? You are idiots. Barria's big, huge ship with many passengers, and we made an emergency stop even in the middle of the night. There'd be chaos everywhere. What are your thoughts, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, it's certainly possible that some kind of emergency happened last night. We have evidence to support that idea. Really? What evidence, Mr. Naruhodo? Fascinating. Do show us, my good man. What evidence promotes the theory that such emergency gripped the vessel last night? This one! Yeah, there was nothing after 2 p.m.
Yes!
Seaman Stroganov, it's your duty to patrol the first-class area of the ship, isn't that right? That is correct. Why? And the ship's log here. This would be where you record the details of your duties. What are you doing with that? That is mine! You're rather careless. Left at the top, the makeshift... Beret? I've heard that word before, makeshift. Well, time to get the Google Translate, boy. I gotta have Google Translate, like at the ready, dude. Yeah. Bureau. Lift atop that makeshift burrow on the passageway out there. But as responsible passengers, we took our care with our mind to return it to you later. I left it there on purpose. That is where I put it always. The point is, looking at what you usually record, It's clear that under normal circumstances, you write the phrase "nothing to report" every 30 minutes. But from 2 o'clock last night until last first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all. Nothing was recorded in the log. That is... because nothing happened. But if nothing happened, you would normally write "nothing to report," wouldn't you? Oh... Indeed so, which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happened here aboard the SS Burra. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget to fill in the ship's log, in fact. Are you suggesting... What the frick? Are you suggesting that the ship really did make an emergency stop in the middle of the night? Stop talking rubbish! We're about to hit him with the facts. If I'm perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself. Oh, why? Well, because if something as major as an emergency stop really had happened, surely all of us would have noticed. That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like now. The ship lurched so violently and the alarm bar was so loud. I can't imagine that anyone would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of the night. Well, no, that's a good point. What of the throbbing? Sorry? What do you mean? Your head, man. The throbbing of your head since this morning. We've all suffered with it. Ah! Oh, yeah, I have a headache. You're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up today. Nor have I. My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn. Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected. He's right. My head's been throbbing today, too. And since eating dinner yesterday evening, everything had felt sort of hazy. Can't really remember anything that happened after I climbed back inside that wardrobe. The food was drugged. Then the first thing I noticed this morning was the throbbing pain in my head. Okay, everyone was given poisoned food to sleep, and then we did the emergency stop, which probably all freaking cracked their skulls. Already been tracked out of the wardrobe. And I had those handcuffs put on me by that point. Why didn't I wake up when all this was happening to me? Do not tell me. Mr. Naruhodo, you boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you? Oh, well, yeah. Sorry. The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. What did you survive on? Ah, well, Kazuma looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals. So you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dinner that we served yesterday evening, I take it. Yes, in fact, it was all of that. Kazuma wasn't fond of chicken. Oh, really? So the victim didn't eat any of that chicken at all? That's right, he didn't touch it. Is that relevant? Naruhodo, my dear fellow, does that not strike you? Oh, Mr. Shums, do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken? I do. No, really? Is that really true? The meal prepared for the passengers last night has been tampered with. Tampered with by the addition of sulfuric. Soporific. Yeah, wait. Google Translate. Google. Get bully Google. This is my compilation. Sorry. That word. Soporific. Sort of a soporific designed to induce a heavy, very deep slumber in those who consumed it. A sleeping drug. Do you mean whatever did this laced every meal with the sleeping drug, so we'll notice the ship's emergency stop? Mr. Naruhodo, of course that's not what Mr. Shum means. What a far-fetched idea. Precisely. Lacing every meal of every passenger aboard with the soporific drug would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator. What? Mr. Shums? Well, Seaman. I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. If you refuse to talk, there would have to be an inquiry made to the shipping company, of course. And where that happened, every member of the crew, the captain himself, would be hauled over the coals for aiding and abetting a renegade. Please, no more. I will tell everything. Yeah? I cannot make problems like this for everyone anymore. These crewmates are your former companions, I believe. Yes, so when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me. We all agreed to help everyone together. She threw away everything. Her fame in the ballet. Mother Russia, we wanted to help our angel. I don't believe it. You are right. You put sleeping drug in chicken last night. Yes, I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point. Ryunosuke, can I make all drug? How do you say? Dissolve? Talk about heavy seasoning. At midnight in waters near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. She was helped by comrades on shore with small fishing boats. While all the passengers of the SS Burr slept soundly. Thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion their evening meals had contained. So if that's all what happened, the only people awake on the ship last night were the crew, people who just like chicken, and the newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavlova. And that means it would have been possible for you. You could have used the emergency stop trick to lock Kazuma's cabin door. How does that make sense? Surely every cabin door would have ended up locked in that case, and there would have been complete chaos. Oh, I wouldn't say so. Oh, I wouldn't say so. What? Of course. Just like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins, through which they would have been overwhelmed by tiredness because of the sleeping drug. Quite, and accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night? Yes! The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually? Isn't it habitually? Fuck! I hate my English skills! I know how to read these words, I swear I speak English! Huh? No. It is habitually! I guess I never had to seen it spelled before. Habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted anyways. And not one of them would have found it remarkable to find the door locked in the morning. In summary, in order to fasten the bolt of the single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning.